You ever get used so hard by someone you start to wonder if your entire friendship was just an elaborate con? Because that's what happened to me. She wasn't just a mooch, she was a stealth vacation squatter, and when I finally said no, I left her standing at King's Cross like an abandoned suitcase. AITAH? Let's rewind. I'm 28F, living in Edinburgh now, but this all started back when I moved to Glasgow in 2018. That's when my friendship with Harper, 31F, took a very specific turn. We met years ago on Tumblr, bonding over our obsession with a niche 2000s indie band. After months of chatting, we realized we lived less than an hour apart. Meetups turned into hangouts, hangouts turned into actual friendship, and eventually it felt like I'd found a sister in her. Fast forward, Harper moves to Manchester for work in 2016. I never get invited to her place, not once, but whatever. Life's busy. Then I move to Glasgow, and that's when things shift. She's suddenly very interested in seeing me again. Every message has this new urgency. I've missed you so much. It's been ages. Let's catch up. I was excited, of course. First trip she planned to visit me happened to be the same weekend her favorite football team, Arsenal, was playing in town. I thought it was a fun coincidence. Then it happened again, and again, and again. Every time Harper visited me, there was a match involved. I didn't even clock it at first, because I couldn't care less about football. But I started catching on when she'd show up wearing Arsenal merch and casually mention the game, usually after I'd already agreed to host her. My flat wasn't huge, but she always made herself extremely comfortable. Brought nothing but her phone, her team jersey, and her expectations. At first, she claimed to be fine with me working during her visits. I had long shifts, 10, 12 hours sometimes. I'd come home expecting to unwind, and there she'd be. Not with dinner. Not with plans. Just waiting for me to serve her. Literally. She'd ask what I was making for dinner. If I ordered takeaway? Ugh, again. If I cooked? You didn't ask what I felt like. She'd complain about everything, my taste in shows, my idea of fun, even the temperature of the flat. But when I asked her to contribute ideas, crickets. It wasn't until I got my new job, much more demanding, but also better paid, that things escalated. She started inviting herself every other month. Often not even telling me first. Just a, hey, train's booked for Friday, and expecting me to be thrilled. One time I said I had plans to see my cousin that weekend. She straight up ghosted my message, then sent me her arrival time the next day like we'd never spoken. I thought maybe she misunderstood. Nope. She just didn't care. The final straw wasn't one event. It was years of passive aggression, manipulation, and, honestly, entitlement masquerading as friendship. She never once invited me to Manchester, by the way. I asked. Multiple times. It was always too busy, not a great time, or my flat's too small. But mine? Mine was a free hotel with her name on the room. I stopped replying to her messages right away. I tried setting boundaries. Hey, I'm not available that week. She'd answer, no worries, and then show up anyway. When I'd say, hey, I really can't host you, she'd say, it's fine. I'll just keep it low-key, and then act like I ruined her weekend by working full-time and not entertaining her 24/7. But what really broke me was the way she reacted when I told her I'd be out of the country, literally in Austria visiting my family, during her next planned trip. Her response? A reminder text with her arrival time. Like I was an Uber. That was the day I decided to ghost her, permanently. And what followed? Phew. Buckle in. Part 2's where things really go off the rails. January rolled around, and I was finally set to visit my family in Austria. My flights were booked, my bags were packed, and for once, I felt like I was about to get a proper break. A real holiday with people who actually respected me. Cue the text from Harper. Just a heads up. My train gets in at 3:45 on the 9th. Can you pick me up at the station? No. Are you in town? No. Is this still okay? Just a bold assumption that she still had access to my flat and life. I stared at the message, took a deep breath, and replied, hey, I'm not in the UK. I told you I'd be visiting family that week. No emoji, no explanation, just facts. The reply didn't come for an hour. When it did, it wasn't a message, it was 5 missed calls. Back to back. Then a 6th, followed by a barrage of frantic texts. What do you mean you're not home? Where am I supposed to go? Why didn't you tell me? Then my flatmates started messaging me. Harper had shown up at the door. When no one answered, she called them too. They were a couple, sweet people, but they were genuinely confused and a little panicked. She says you told her she could stay, They asked. Nope. Never happened. The kicker? Neither Harper nor my flatmates once asked if I was okay. From their perspective, I had suddenly disappeared overseas. But no, are you all right? Or is something wrong? Just, what are we supposed to do about Harper? That told me everything I needed to know about how she'd framed the situation. Harper finally texted me 3 days later. No apology. Just, hope you're okay. That situation was really hard for me. I was out of pocket for a hostel. Can you make a spare key for me in case this happens again? Excuse me? You use my home as a crash pad, ignore my boundaries, and now you want a key? Not even in case of emergencies. No, she wanted the key so she could continue booking trips around Arsenal games without bothering to ask next time. I snapped. I replied, good to know you only cared about the free accommodation. Consider this friendship over. Then I blocked her. Everywhere. My flatmates were a bit shocked. They thought maybe I'd overreacted. But when I explained the entire history, how she'd steamrolled my boundaries for years, they got it. They'd only seen the last act of a very long play. Most of my actual friends? 100% on my side. They said good riddance, and you're way too patient for letting it go on this long. But then I made the mistake of mentioning it at work. Some of my coworkers, who barely knew the situation, said what I did was savage, cold, and even kinda cruel. One even asked, but couldn't you have just reminded her again not to come? Like really clearly. What do you think I've been doing for years? I wish I could say that was the end of it. But Harper wasn't done. Not even close. What she did next was so entitled and so bizarre that it made me wonder if I'd actually been too soft on her. So I blocked Harper on every platform I could think of. WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, even my old Spotify account that she weirdly used to DM me on sometimes. I thought that would be the end. I was wrong. A week after the whole train station meltdown, I started getting messages from people we both knew, but hadn't spoken to in years. Old fandom friends. People from back when we bonded over that random indie band. Most of them were reaching out with the same vague line. Hey, I heard what happened between you and Harper. Just wanted to say, I hope you're okay. Some were genuinely supportive. Others? Not so much. One girl, who I hadn't spoken to since 2015, messaged me just to say she never expected me to be so cold, and Harper always spoke so highly of you. Excuse me? Apparently, Harper had started her own little PR campaign, telling people I'd left her stranded in an unfamiliar city with nowhere to go, after inviting her and then disappearing without warning. Which is, of course, complete fiction. Here's the thing. I kept everything. Every text, every message, every ignored, I'm not available those days warning. Screenshots. Calendar entries. Even photos of my plane ticket to Vienna. I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone, but when our one mutual friend who still lived in Glasgow messaged me saying, hey, Harper's telling people you ghosted her while she was in crisis, I knew it was time. I dumped the entire digital paper trail into a shared folder. Then I sent a polite, but firm message to those who'd reached out with side eyes. Just so you have the full context, here's proof that I told her multiple times I couldn't host. She booked a trip anyway. I was literally in another country. One girl immediately apologized. Another didn't reply. One straight up blocked me. But the point was made. I wasn't going to let her rewrite reality. But Harper didn't stop. She couldn't reach me directly, so she did something I honestly should have seen coming. She tried to ambush me in a group chat. She reactivated an old fandom WhatsApp group we were both in, one that hadn't been used in years, and tagged me directly. I just wish some people would own up when they hurt others and stop pretending they're perfect. Girl, really? Half the people didn't even know what she was talking about. The other half awkwardly left the chat. I didn't respond, but she kept posting. Screenshots of her hostel receipt, her train ticket, even a blurry photo of her at a Pret-a-Manger with the caption, so much for a warm welcome. It was so unhinged, I was honestly embarrassed for her. That's when the last straw came in the form of an email. Yes, she emailed me. Subject line, please read. Body, a 6-paragraph message that started off sounding like an apology and devolved into a list of demands. She asked that I 1. Reconsider our friendship. 2. Compensate her for her train fare and hostel, since I hadn't communicated clearly. 3. Make a copy of my keys to avoid future confusion. 4. Let her stay next time to make up for this misunderstanding. At the bottom was a line that said, I know you've been feeling distant, and I know your job keeps you busy, but friends make time. You used to care. I don't know what happened to you. What happened to me? I finally grew a backbone. My response was short, blunt, and probably colder than ice on steel. Let's rewind to that email. The one where she said I owed her for a hostel and demanded I make a copy of my flat keys, just in case she came by again. I didn't hold back in my reply. Harper, this isn't a misunderstanding. It's a pattern. You've ignored my boundaries, manipulated my kindness, and used my home like a hotel. I told you I wouldn't be here. You came anyway. That's not confusion. That's entitlement. This friendship is over. Please do not contact me again. Then I blocked her email. I thought that was it. But nope. 2 days later, my flatmate, Callum, texted me. Hey, Harper just called me. She said she couldn't reach you and wants to make sure you're okay. I replied, I'm fine. She's not supposed to be contacting me anymore. Then came the kicker. She asked if I could let her in next time she's in town. She said she always stayed here and it used to be cool with you. I almost threw my phone across the room. Callum and his girlfriend Zara weren't close with Harper. They'd seen her maybe 3 or 4 times in passing over the years. But Harper, being Harper, acted like they were all besties. Like she was a regular at Sunday brunch or something. Turns out, she'd messaged both of them. Separately, she told Callum she was worried about me. She told Zara that we'd had a falling out, but she'd already bought tickets and didn't want to make things weird. She was laying groundwork, manipulating them. Zara messaged me privately and said, I don't want to overstep, but Harper is acting like she expects to stay here again. We're not comfortable with that. I told her thank you, and that Harper was not welcome. Not now. Not ever again. To their credit, they blocked her too. But the fact that she tried to slither through them after I cut ties? That told me everything I needed to know. She didn't miss the friendship. She missed the free stay. The next wave was a fake apology tour. She started posting cryptic Instagram stories, pictures of us from years ago with captions like, some people forget the times you were there for them. Broken heart. 10 years down the drain because of one bad week. Was it ever real? And my personal favorite. Friendship shouldn't be conditional. Girl, I told you multiple times I couldn't host you. You ignored me. Booked the trip. Showed up anyway. Then demanded compensation and a key. That's not a friendship. That's a squatter's hustle with emojis. And despite being blocked, she kept finding ways to contact me through alternate numbers, dummy Instagram accounts, and even one email with a new Gmail address titled UseTobaFriends93. I wish I was joking. The final straw came in March. I got home from work and there was a note under our flat door. Handwritten. In sparkly pink pen. It read, I don't understand how you could just erase me from your life. I was there when you broke up with Greg. When you got that job at the museum. I helped you paint your kitchen. Please don't do this. I need my friend back. Let's break that down. I broke up with Greg 5 years ago. She helped me paint my kitchen by watching a YouTube video and spilling primer on the floor. And the job? I got it after she ghosted me for 4 months in 2019 because I wouldn't give her a spare key then. I reported the note to building security. Told my flatmates not to open the door for anyone who didn't live there. And then I did the only thing left to do. I called a solicitor and got advice on filing a no-contact order if she came back. But just when I thought the curtain had closed on the Harper saga, someone else messaged me. Not Harper. Her boyfriend. That's right. The man I'd never met. Who suddenly wanted to have a word. Why? A DM hit my Instagram from someone named Ben, and I almost ignored it until I saw the message preview. Hey, I think we need to talk about what happened with Harper. Excuse me? I opened it and saw a wall of text. He introduced himself, said he was Harper's boyfriend of about 6 months, and that she was really hurt by what had happened. Apparently, she'd been crying every day and had told him I kicked her out onto the street while she was in Glasgow with nowhere to go. He said he understood that friends can fall out, but what I did bordered on emotional cruelty. I laughed so hard I dropped my phone. Then I screenshot everything. Every polite rejection, every ignored boundary, the email she sent demanding a key, and dropped it in a reply folder. And I said, Hi Ben, you seem like a decent guy, so I'm giving you one chance to see what actually happened before you get further manipulated. Your girlfriend lied. She wasn't invited. She showed up after being told repeatedly not to. If she's crying, it's because the gravy train ended. Good luck. He didn't reply for 2 days. Then I got another message. Thanks for sending this. Honestly, this isn't the first time she's bent the truth about things. I didn't realize how deep it went. And then, I think I need to take a step back from her. I didn't respond. That wasn't my problem anymore. So where did things land? Well, after Harper's boyfriend dipped, her online presence basically evaporated. No more sad girl stories. No more subtle jabs. Just silence. She never reached out again. My flatmates told me she tried calling them once more, but they didn't pick up. The group chat she revived? Dead again. Everyone left. One person even said they blocked her out of sheer secondhand embarrassment. As for me, I finally breathed. It was like I'd been living with this low-grade emotional parasite attached to my life for years, and suddenly, poof, gone. And here's what really stuck with me. Harper never actually apologized. Not once. Not for guilt-tripping me. Not for showing up uninvited. Not for trying to manipulate my flatmates. Not for lying to mutual friends. Not for the literal note she slid under my door. Every message from her had one thing in common. A focus on what she lost, what she wanted, what she felt. Never once did she ask how I was. Not when I told her I was going abroad. Not when she showed up and I wasn't home. Not even when she thought something might have gone wrong. And that's how I knew I was never really her friend. I was just her convenient option. To this day, some coworkers still think I was harsh, that I could have been clearer. But here's what I say to that. When someone ignores your no 20 times and shows up anyway, they're not confused. They're testing how much disrespect you'll tolerate. I tolerated too much for too long. And when I finally stopped, that's when the real tantrum began. So no, I don't feel bad. Not for abandoning someone who treated me like a booking confirmation. Not for protecting my time, my space, and my mental peace. Not for finally saying, enough. So, AITAH? Or was I just the first person in Harper's life to finally charge her for the emotional rent she never paid? Let me know in the comments. And if you've got a Harper in your life, block buttons free, baby. See you next story. Waving hand.